What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and we have a very special video for you today. We're going to talk about how you can become a more shifty wide receiver. So what does that exactly mean? We're going to talk about how you guys can get more yards after the catch, how you guys can make people miss in open space with the ball in your hands, and we're going to be talking about some different routes that all wide receivers need to know to be able to play at the next level and how you could run those perfectly. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you're a receiver and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this off season, we're coming out to 15 different locations across the entire country for 2-day long QB and wide receiver camps. So check out that very first link in the description below if you'd like some more information on how you can sign up. We're going to be coming out to San Francisco, California. That camp is completely sold out. Then Miami, Florida. That camp is also completely sold out. But then we'll be heading out to Portland, Oregon, Charlotte, North Carolina, Las Vegas, Nevada, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, Chicago, Illinois, Buffalo, New York. Then we'll be coming out to Atlanta, Georgia, Houston, Texas, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Detroit, Michigan, Boise, Idaho, and Los Angeles, California. So if you guys, again, would like some more information, want to know how you can sign up to train with us, we'd love to have all you out there, fellas, to our camps. Check out that very first link in the description below. Let's get back to this video. All right, guys, so the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to being a shifty wide receiver is making people miss an open space. How can wide receivers get more yards after the catch, yards after contact, and make people look foolish like this with the ball in their hands? And honestly, fellas, let's look at this example here from Bijan Robinson, right? So he catches this like kind of screen pass, and I know he's a running back, but dude, he moves like a receiver, and receivers, you want to get better at yards with the ball in your, or getting more yards after the catch, making people miss the ball in your hands. Maybe you should study what running backs are doing because those guys are the best in the world at this. But watch what he does here. He catches the ball, he puts on a little crossover move, he runs in one direction, he plants, he drops his hips. What does this look a lot like? Looks a lot like running routes, right? So guys ask me all the time. It's probably one of the most common questions that I get asked, and I appreciate the questions because it helps me come up with ideas for videos and consistently make videos that you guys want to see. So I really do appreciate it. But when we were running routes, like that's working on yards after the catch, yards with the ball in your hand, because you're pretty much just running routes out there, but you're just going at a faster speed. So guys, if you want to get better at yards after the catch, making people miss, work on your route running, work on your releases, work on your cuts, work on your explosiveness, work on explosiveness in the gym, doing plyometrics, jump training. All of these things directly translate to this, just like route running. The better route runner you are, the better you're going to be with the ball in your hand. Now, something that a lot of receivers do when they get the ball in their hand is they start to freeze up. They don't hit the hole as hard. They don't hit the edge is hard because, like receivers, like, you're not built like running backs, right? Like you're not like 200 plus pounds, thick, strong guys. Like you're usually on the skinnier side of things. Maybe don't weigh a whole lot, right? But you got good speed, you got good hands, you could run routes. But when that ball's in your hand and you're worried about getting hit, sometimes receivers freeze up. Right? That is something that we can't have. And to play at that type of speed, obviously, I think that takes game reps. Obviously, I think that takes a mindset to be able to play fast, right? But I also think it comes down to doing drill work fast. Like you watch Bijan Robinson do all these moves, right? Like he play it in full speed. He comes here, gets a crossover, bursts to the left side, puts the brakes on. Like all this stuff, he's moving at a very high speed. So when you guys are doing drills on your own time, and they're especially drills that are reactionary based, and we're going to talk about reactions in a second, but you've got to go fast because if we're not playing at a game speed, we're not going to actually play in a game at a game speed, right? If we are constantly going slow paced, half speed, and if you're working on a skill, I get it. You can slow things down, especially a new skill, a new release, a new move, slow it down by all means. But when you're starting to get things down and you feel confident in your game, everything should be at a game speed so it can directly translate to this type of situation. Now, again, usually when we're making cuts with the ball in my hand, what am I doing with defenders? You're reacting off of defenders, right? Now, this is something when I was a player, like I never understood why coaches would have me do drills where like let's say, for example, I'm not saying to do this drill, but let's say I had like 3 bags, right? And you were hopping over the bags, and then the coach would clap his hands and you'd have to change direction. Then he would clap his hands and you'd have to change the exercise that you were doing. All they were doing was training your reaction. And that like agility, that reactionary agility is what applies to this. So if you're a receiver and you want to get better at yards after the catch, guys, work on your route running and work a lot of reactionary drills because reactions are one of the easiest ways to get them to become a more shifty wide receiver. If you can react fast, if you can react with smooth cuts, emphasizing good route running form, if you will, good cutting form, you're going to be very, very tough to stop. Now, let's look at this other example here from Tyreek Hill, how reactions can actually apply to receivers off the line of scrimmage, right? So Tyreek Hill here, and we're going to get into some other things that shifty wide receivers need to be able to do, like running double moves, like a slant and go, like a hitch and go, a slant corner, and maybe some routes that you've never even heard of. But whenever it comes to reaction as a receiver, this is why it's so important to train it. You never know what situation you might be faced as a receiver. So Tyreek Hill right here, and again, Tyreek Hill is one of the shiftiest players in the game. Does it help that he runs like a 4.2 40? Absolutely. But this is something that all wide receivers can apply. How many times have you heard wide receiver coaches talk about like it's like playing basketball? It's like a point guard, right? The point guard doesn't necessarily premeditate the crossover that he's going to use, right? It's more of like a reaction. He goes one way, a defender goes that way, he crosses over and goes back. Same thing with your releases to be classified as that quote-unquote shifty receiver. So we got inside shade pressure. Tyreek Hill's running a fade. Right? So what he would like to do here is the release that he decides to choose is a little shuffle, like slide release. So when he slides to the outside, he's hoping that this DB sits to the inside and he just takes off and go. That's, I guess you could say, his plan. I'm not going to act like I'm thinking for him or I was in his head and I know what's going on, but that is what it looks like he's doing. Now I want you to watch what happens. He slides to the outside. What does the DB do? DB jumps to the outside and takes away the outside release. So now he's outside leverage. DBs like to do this. They show that they're inside leverage and then they jump to the outside and disguise, or they jump to the outside because they were disguising they were inside leverage. They're actually outside leverage and they have help to the inside. So where there's a receiver, I come off the ball, you see how he does this little slide release. I can't just slide and just keep going. I got to react. I react with a crossover move, just like Tyreek Hill does. So we come off the ball. He very easily could have just slid to the outside and then just taken off and ran. DB would have gotten hands. He would have gotten hands and squeezed us all the way to the sideline. So this is another reason why it's important to work reactions like this, guys. This DB takes away our release. Okay, cool. I'm just going to react and put the crossover on, and I'm going to take what he gives me, which is the inside release, and beat that safety help with that speed. Now, again, this is a situation that I will work with my receivers constantly to build this reaction and this quick twitch, this shiftiness off the line. What I'll do, let's say I have a receiver session with 2 wide receivers, right? I will have one wide receiver act like they're playing DB. I'll have one wide receiver obviously playing wide receiver, and I'll be over here acting as a quarterback. I'll tell this defender to either stay, he'll have him line up pre-snap, he'll be inside shade. I'll either tell him to stay inside shade or I'll tell him that as soon as the receiver works his release, jump outside to train the reaction. Right? So this receiver, he's got to do the irregular release first because there's a chance that this DB could sit, but it trains that reaction. It trains that, oh crap, I got to go the opposite way. And the faster you get at that, the more you train that reaction, the better we will be in this situation. So I just want to talk about that because this is the same thing for catching the ball and then getting yards after the catch, making people miss with the ball in your hands. It's all about reaction. You obviously got to have clean cuts. You obviously got to work things route running wise to develop that. But when it's time to put these moves into action, we got to go fast. We have to play fast, and we have to be able to react. So now, shifty wide receivers are guys that receiver coaches, offensive coordinators, head coaches will usually send to be the double move guy. You want to be the threat downfield. You want to make somebody miss with a move and then be that threat downfield. So we're going to talk about first and foremost how to run a hitch and go, and then we're going to get into some other double move routes. Well, look at this hitch and go here from Devonta Smith. Most important thing when you're running a double move is obviously you got to make it look exactly like the single move, right? So if we're running a hitch and go and I'm trying to put the brakes on a hitch, what am I trying to sell? Like, let's say it's just a regular hitch route until 5 yards. What am I trying to sell until 5 yards? I'm trying to sell a fade, right? So I got to make sure that I'm running hard. I'm committing my hips and my shoulders. I'm running with long strides. And how you put the brakes on a hitch route, a curl, a comeback, when you are selling vertical properly, is you got to have a violent drop of your hips. So you watch Smith go up into this route, bam, he drops violently. You see how he's bringing his chest to his quad and he is sitting his butt down almost at a 90-degree angle. If you guys can get to this position, 90 degrees, not chin over your knee, not chest over your knees. I'm talking chin to knee, chest to quad, 90 degrees with your butt and with your legs. And you drop as violently as possible. I guarantee you that is going to put this DB on alert. Whether that's just a regular hitch route, because that's how you can stop, whether that's a hitch and go route, whether that's a stop and go route, it may be a little bit deeper, like 10 to 12 yards, you have to add that same violent drop because it has to look the same. Now, when you're violent like this, you almost want to think of it like somebody's got a string attached to your chin and they're pulling the string down. How quickly can you drop? like we're playing musical chairs. The music stops, sitting your butt down, bringing your chest to your quad as quickly as you can. When you do that, guys, like we said, that puts the DB on alert, but that also creates some explosion to help you get up into this route. Because on a double move, we can't look back for the ball right away. We got to keep my head down. I got to pump my arms, and I have to stay open. I get open by being shifty, quote unquote, by dropping my hips violently, but I stay open by using that explosion from that drop to accelerate me out. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Smith here selling this hitch route on this hitch and go, and then being able to get separation over the top. All right, so now this next example is going to be a route here from CeeDee Lamb, and he's going to be running this like kind of like post corner. It looks very, very short to be a post corner, but I would consider it more like a post corner rather than a slant corner. But he comes off the ball, breaks to the post, breaks back to the corner, gets that DB to bite, and then he's able to win. Now, when it comes down to a double move like a slant and go, like a post corner, like a slant corner, whatever the situation may be, whatever route that you are trying to run, there are three things that you have to keep in mind to sell this thing, to make your cut more explosive and obviously make you a little bit more on the shiftier side. So when you watch CeeDee Lamb cut into this break, the first thing that snaps around when he breaks to this post is what? Eyes. Eyes got to look to the inside. DB does not have the best eye discipline right now. He is looking at CeeDee Lamb's head. That is easy money for a wide receiver. So you can't just rely on this, because sometimes you'll have a disciplined DB, especially one who's maybe an off coverage, who's going to be watching our hips and our body language. So when you snap the eyes around, you have to make sure your hips and your shoulders also commit to the first read, or the first route, excuse me. So if I'm running a slant route, my hips and shoulders need to be facing on a 45-degree angle. Now, that's the first thing. Second thing is going to be your speed. If you guys change speed, because DBs are taught to look for this. If you break to a slant and you slow down, then you push up vertical, that change in speed a DB knows. If you run the first part of your route 100%, then the second route 50, they're not expecting a slant. You got to maintain your speed. And last but not least, you need long strides. See how Lamb, he's taking 3 steps, but I want you to watch how much ground he gains. 1, 2, 3, pretty much like about 5 yards of space. That's what gets a DB to crash. Body language, stride, and speed. If you could do that on sluggos, if you guys could do that on post corners, corner posts, slant corners, maybe even, honestly, fellas, like a whip route, because these are all routes that they're going to ask those shifty wide receivers to run, you will be pleasantly surprised on the separation that we were able to get if we take care of these little details. The devil's in the details, fellas. The details of route running is what will get you open when you're facing a DB or a safety or whoever is just as good of an athlete as us.